All right. Welcome to everyone. Today our guest is MMA rockstar journalist John Hyon. John, thank you so much for accepting the interview. And, been following you for a very much long period of time. So, what can you say about your general achievements? You do this job for a very, very long time, I guess.
Yeah, I think I've been doing it for maybe 6 years on and off, but the last few years I've been doing it consistently. And yeah, just trying to work hard and I guess find my place in the MMA media if possible.
When did you start with MMA journalism? But professionally. I mean, really professionally. When did you start? Which was the year?
The first time I wrote an actual article was probably 2014.
Why did you start MMA journalism? Did you have some of a specific reason or?
Well, I've been watching the sport for a long time, and one day I was just thinking, like, is there anybody covering the sport in Asia? And I started looking online, and I found a website called AsianMMA.com, and that was the pretty much the only website that was covering the sport. There was a couple others, but that was the main one, and I just reached out to them and said, hey, would you like somebody to cover some shows or write some articles or something? And then I just started doing it from then on. I don't even know. I guess I was just curious, like, to see if there was anybody out there doing it. And since there wasn't many people, I just started to do it. I just decided to.
What is the difference, for example, between Korea and the USA when it comes to coverage? Is it a massive difference or to MMA coverage?
Yeah, it is. It is somewhat of a difference. Like in the U.S., there's so many outlets and so many people covering the sport in many different angles and at many different levels. But in Korea, there's only a small handful of people. Like the people I know that are the main people that have been contributing to MMA media in Korea that are like part of the Korean media. There's maybe like five, but they've been covering the sport since the Pride days.
So very little, very small number, right?
Yeah, very niche. The ones that are like, I guess, professional, like combat sports journalists. Yeah, the very small amount.
In my state, people are watching me like I'm having 12 heads because of that. And how is the situation in Korea? Do they tolerate or they are just, or it's weird?
I don't know. I think that if you want to do it, you can do it. It's just people don't want to, take. I guess they don't want to take the long road. There's a long road of doing it. Like you gotta spend time and learn. Like if you want to do like YouTube and video interviews, you gotta learn how to record and edit and all these things. And then if you want to do coverage, you have to go to the shows and you're not gonna get paid most of the time. So people don't want to go through all of that. They don't want to spend the time. So I think that's why it's so limited now.
Yeah, pretty much. As much as I could have seen, passion for MMA is pretty much important. So, yeah, only if you're a die-hard fan you can succeed, I guess. Did fans give you some kind of a nickname or?
I don't think so. I don't know if I have a nickname or anything. Maybe just my social media tag, JHKMMA. Maybe that's a nickname, I guess. Or I remember Marcel used to call me your local Asian. But other than that, I don't see any nickname or anything like that. Maybe there is. I have no idea.
All right, you got many interviews throughout the career, but do you have a favorite one? Maybe do you have maybe two, three favorite ones?
It's hard to say because I've had so many interviews, and a lot of the interviews I forget that I did those interviews. So sometimes I have to go back and watch certain interviews again just to refresh my mind. But yeah, there's a couple interviews I think that I really enjoyed was you know I think speaking with Demetrius Johnson for the first time. That was a pretty good moment because he's a guy that I think a lot of people are gonna not appreciate fully because they don't understand the level of talent that he has and what he has accomplished. But speaking with him is pretty good. I've actually done 2 interviews with him now. Who else? Mark Hunt. I think Mark Hunt interviewing Mark Hunt was nice. He's an interesting person too. Who else is there? There's certain interviews that are right now some good interviews. Like I like speaking with like Kama Worthy is a good interview. If you speak with him, he's always open. Of course, then you know that he's good. You know what I mean? He can make the interview very easy for you.
But the greatest problem one can face is, for example, when a fighter is kind of tricky with language and when there is the difference. For example, when you interview English fighters, it can be really, really hard time, especially because of their, local words and such things. I don't know. Did you have the most difficult one interview?
Mm, Not because of language, because like I grew up in America, so I kind of understand most of the slang. Like if they do use some kind of certain kind of slang or words that might be unusual for people that don't understand that kind of like accent or something like that. And I've interviewed a lot of people from Europe and Australia and New Zealand, so I kind of got used to it now. To where sometimes I would listen to them and think like, oh, what are they trying to say? But then afterwards, I would go ask somebody that's from that area, what does this word mean or what does this phrase mean? And then I start to learn it, and then it gets easier.
How much is the job hardiness considering the scale from 1 to 10 when it comes to covering MMA media?
It is. I feel like it's pretty hard because if it's not like a full-time job, then you got to balance, like doing some other work and then covering the sport, right? And then there's so many different promotions, so it all depends on what are you covering. Like for myself, I'll cover the UFC and Bellator and One Championship and Ryzen and a couple other promotions, and then I'll cover like Korea mainly. So it doesn't give me much time to cover like ACA and like a lot of the promotions in Europe because just doesn't match up or line up to what I'm doing. So it's difficult. I think MMA media on a scale to 10, it's like a 10. It's very hard. It's not an easy job.
I agree about that. Do you have a favorite fight, all-time favorite fight, considering you're a long-time fan?
My favorite fight. There's so many good fights. Even just this year, there was so many good fights. But one of my favorite fights of all time would probably have to be. I think it would have to be Dan Henderson versus Shogun, the first fight.
I agree. And about this year, which fight is the best for you? For me, I've got two choices for male. I've got Mendonca versus Dagvadorj, and for female, definitively Bailey Hyon. I guess there was no better fight in the history of female fighting, I guess, than that one.
You're right. You're right. That fight, I just actually rewatched it 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and just to refresh my mind on the fight, and it is an incredible fight. For for men, it's hard to say. Like Shane Burgos and Josh Emmett. What did they fight this year? I
Yes,
don't remember.
yes, yes,
Oh, they
yes,
did, right?
yes.
That was a great fight. Of course, Dan Hooker's been in some good fights, especially the one with Dustin Poirier, Figueiredo versus what is it? Moreno was a great fight. It's hard to choose, but if I would just pick one fight, it would be Zhang Wei Li versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk.
Male fight, I picked Mendonca versus Dagvadorj only for one reason, because Dagvadorj was getting very, very heavily better, and he just survived and continued swarming on Mendonca in the next round. I was like, how, man? And one round Mendonca attacks, other round Dagvadorj attacks. They were constantly changing. It was in the end, I think, 49-46 for Mendonca, but not sure about cards. But Mendonca won, but it was a close win, and I didn't even know that LFA can have such wonderful fights, I guess. So, how did you feel when you were quoted by Yannick?
Oh, it felt good, like, it's just something that I feel like is very rare to happen to somebody. So when it happens to me, I feel like very fortunate, but I don't really think too much about it. I mean, it feels good, but I don't like think about it too much. Whenever they bring up that fight, then I'll be reminded of it. You know, like Michel Pereira slapping I forgot his name. What was his name? The other fighter. But yeah, Michel Pereira just slapping the guy over and over again. Whenever I see that, I
Yes,
always get
Williams.
reminded of it. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Like getting on ESPN, I think I've been on there so many times. I just don't remember how many times I've been there on ESPN. So just I guess on the Twitter feed or whatever. But it's cool. It's nice to see. But I don't really think too much about it anymore.
What are the greatest differences between Asian and North American MMA fighters in the MMA media?
For fighters, I think that in North America, it's just like martial arts was like born in Asia, but fighting, I feel like it was born in the Western world, and for fighting, it's just the roots are just more deeper, much deeper, and the coaching is so much different. There's specialized coaches for every single aspect of fighting, like Muay Thai, boxing, jiu-jitsu, catch wrestling. You got everything there. You got strength and conditioning, nutritionists. And in Asia, it's not like that. There's certain places where maybe a couple gyms that might do it like that, but it is very rare. So North America for fighters, it's just a better place to be and train. But there's a couple spots in Asia, like let's say Tiger Muay Thai is a great spot for fighters to go to and train and get every aspect of training that they need. But if you go to, like, let's say like even Korea or like even Japan, it's very limited. There's a lot of great fighters, a lot of good gyms. It's just they don't have every single piece of the puzzle like North America does for fighters. For media, you got to think media is all in North America. That's like the hub. So, you got MMA Junkie, you got MMA Fighting, you got ESPN, you right now you got CBS coming through with great coverage, you got TSN, and that's where all the big names go mostly. You know what I mean? Like if you see the managers, they're going to give their interviews to mostly those kind of outlets because that's the viewership. That's where everybody's watching everything. So in Asia, it's so small. I don't even know. It's not, you can't even compare it. It's just so small.
Who is the best Korean fighter for you? For me, the greatest of all time was definitely Dong Hyun Kim. He was a southpaw guy, so I heavily favor southpaw guys because I'm a southpaw on my own. And you?
Me, the greatest Korean fighter of all time is Ham Seo-hee. She's the most accomplished. She's probably the one of the pioneers of the sport in Korea, and she has the most titles. She's beat the biggest names, and she's still fighting too. So that's which is crazy to me.
That's awesome. When I had an interview, I have one friend who is crazy about Japan. He has a lot of Korean video games and such things, but his main passion in life is Japan. And I asked him, listen, how is it possible that somebody fights at 40, 45 years of age? And he said, listen, in Japan, you have one goal, one path, you see like this. That's the way how it goes. You agree with that, or?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see people, yeah, like tunnel vision. You know what I mean? Like they're just thinking of one thing. And I recently interviewed Minowa Man, right? He's gonna fight soon, and he's I think 44, and he has more than 100 fights. And I asked him like, why do you continue fighting? And he says, just to see how far I can go, just to see how far, how much, how long, just to see. And that's his thing. He's like he's not even thinking about retiring. He's just gonna continue going until he can't go anymore. And that's what you talk about right there. It's just one path, and that's his path.
My friend also said that every single Japanese fighter, I mean, he follows only UFC because we have limited options here. Right now, no, but back at that time, we had limited options. And back at UFC, and I asked him, because he is a big fan of Gomi and Dokami. And I asked him,
Mhm.
listen, how did Gomi survive? He had issues with his father disowned him. I asked him, what do you think? How did he survive? And he said, listen, Gomi was determined to be the champ even before he started. He knew that's gonna be that way. I asked him, okay, but how do you know that? Because I know how they think. He wanted to be the champ and nobody could have stopped him, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. If you're determined, no one's gonna stop you. And I feel like a lot of people, they only remember Gomi from his UFC days. They don't remember him from his Pride days where he was just one of the best in the world, maybe the best in the world at one point at that weight division. So, MMA, they short memory. People have short memories.
I know he was the lightweight pride champion. I remember that very well. I was waking up in the middle of the night alongside my friend to watch Gomi, so I pretty much remember that he was so determined, and he was not a fast starter, which was pretty much odd for pride.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah, it's he was phenomenal, and yeah, his will to win, right, and his determination, and I think also to represent Japan against like the foreigners, against fighters coming from other countries. I felt like that kind of pushed them too, and fighting in front of 40,000, 30,000, 50,000 fans, it helps too.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite martial art?
Mm, like to do
Yes.
my favorite martial art to do, I guess, would be jujitsu. Would probably be the most fun because you get to spar all the time and you could go full blast sparring every single time, so it's fun. But I was gonna start learning a little bit more detailed into like kickboxing and Muay Thai, but coronavirus hit, so not many gyms are open, and you know what I mean. So I can't do it right now.
Oh, restrictions in Korea are pretty much hard right now, right?
It's off and on. It opens up and then the corona cases get higher. They shut it down and they open up and they shut it down. So it's up and down roller coaster. But currently, yeah, it is kind of strict. The restaurants are closed early. You don't you can't go to coffee shops. You only could get takeout. The gyms are pretty much closed unless you're a professional athlete and you have to train. Then you could go. But other than that, yeah, it's not. It's very restricted right now.
What does the day in your life look like?
A day in my life, usually I'll wake up and get if I have interviews, I usually do a lot of them in the mornings because a lot of fighters are in North America, so I have to match the time. Mornings here, evenings over there. So I'll wake up in the morning, get ready for interviews, knock off the interviews. Maybe I'll have two, three, four, five. I don't know. Just keep doing them until whenever it's done, and then I'll try to get a workout in. Either I'll just go ride my bike or maybe go run, maybe do some kettlebell something, right? Because right now it's you have to work out alone. You can't really work out with anybody else. So I try to do that, and then I go to work after that, and then I come back home. And if I get home early enough, I might have another couple interviews set up with fighters maybe on in Asia or maybe fighters in Europe because evening here is the afternoon in Europe. So, I try to line them up like that. So usually that's my day, if it's jam packed.
Is that something that motivates you special in life?
Yeah, it does motivate me. There's a lot of things that motivate me in my life, like to improve myself, to better myself at what I'm doing, and to get in a better position with the MMA media, to take care of my family, and yeah, and to grow as a person, and pretty much that's about it. You know what I mean? And I try to limit myself to get involved with too many other things except for those things.
Well, when it comes to training, when Corona slammed, we also had limited options. One of my fans told me, "So why don't you train in front of cameras? You're a Taekwondo black belt." I said, "Come on, man, why this? Why?" He said, "Hey, listen, MMA media are just not about training. Why don't you be a different?" And actually, I like the idea. We can train also here. So I mean, we can, but restrictions on and off, and I actually saw that my fan was right, and he said you're kind of different. So I don't know, people are looking for various ways to progress. And how do you see yourself in 5 years?
In 5 years,
Yep.
I really don't even think that far ahead. I'm more of a person that thinks right now and not 5 years or even like 2 years from now. I always think positively that something's going to be there in 5 years, but I just don't know what, and I just let life take me where it's taking me, and just work hard and try to focus on what I need to do and not try to get too distracted with other things. And that's about it. I'm not I guess I'm not really too much of a big dreamer. Of course, I want to have a better status in MMA media, but I feel like, you know, wanting it so much is not going to help. It's just working for it and trying to do better with what I'm doing, and get better at different aspects of the media, like writing, getting better at writing articles, get better at presenting myself, speaking, get better at researching fighters, get better at uh, finding angles to interviews. It's a never-ending cycle, and I'm just focused on those things. So 5 years from now, hopefully I'm talking to you. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, if it took you 5 years, we will see. Did people ever call you a revolutionary person?
No, I don't think so. I never heard that before, and I don't think like that would be a word to describe what I'm doing or who I am at all.
Well, in my state, people call me like that every single day, so it's kind of, head starts to hurt every single day. 2 years ago, they were like, nobody knows me. And now everybody knows me and everybody calls me revolutionary person. It's a different culture here, so
Exactly.
I would definitely like to live in Korea for sure. If nobody cares, that's a perfect surround for me. Would you like to add
Yeah.
anything? Maybe to greet someone, maybe to send a message to someone?
No, I just send a message to everybody, that's working in MMA media. I mean, just keep working hard. I'm not really in that big of a position to give too much advice, but I just say, learn everything and try to do everything. And then once you do everything, you'll start to find out what you're good at and what you're not good at, and focus on what you're good at, right? And maybe even continue doing what you're not good at, and maybe you'll be great at it eventually. I don't know, but just work hard and don't worry about what people think or what people say, because everybody's gonna say something about you. So don't worry about it too much.
Thank you for the interview. I will put the video now to processing like 3 4 hours. I will send you link. Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank you for accepting. Always pleasure to have a rock star in my studio. All right. Have a great
Appreciate it.
day.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Goodbye.